Everything is bigger in Texas. At least, that's what Texans like to say. But after researching the geography of this incredible state, I discovered something surprising. In many cases, they're absolutely right. Texas is so large that you can drive for an entire day and still be inside its borders. It contains deserts, forests, mountains, swamps, beaches, and even landscapes that look more like another country than part of the United States. Some of its natural wonders are so extreme, they sound completely made up. A private ranch larger than a state, a mountain that used to sit at the bottom of an ocean, millions of bats forming a cloud visible on weather radar, and mysterious lights that have puzzled scientists for more than a century. Today, we're counting down 20 incredible facts about Texas that prove this state is one of the most geographically fascinating places on Earth. Welcome to Planet Earth Explorer. Let's begin. When people say Texas is big, they're usually not exaggerating. Texas covers nearly 270,000 square miles, making it the second largest state in the United States. But numbers alone don't tell the full story. To truly understand the scale, you need comparisons. Texas is larger than France, it's larger than Germany, it's larger than Japan. In fact, if Texas became an independent nation today, it would rank among the largest countries on Earth. The state's enormous size creates something unusual. Completely different worlds exist within the same borders. The forests of East Texas feel nothing like the deserts of West Texas. The beaches along the Gulf Coast have little in common with the mountains near New Mexico. Many visitors are shocked to discover that Texas isn't one landscape. It's dozens of landscapes combined into one giant territory. Texas isn't simply a state. It's a continent-sized collection of environments sharing a single flag. Imagine owning a piece of land so large that it takes hours to drive across it. Now, imagine that land being bigger than an entire U.S. state. Welcome to the King Ranch. Located in southern Texas, the King Ranch covers more than 825,000 acres. That's over 1,200 square miles. For comparison, the entire state of Rhode Island is smaller. One family-owned ranch is literally larger than a U.S. state. Founded in 1853, the ranch became one of the most influential cattle operations in history. Its scale is difficult to comprehend. The property contains cattle, wildlife, roads, rivers, oil resources, and vast stretches of untouched land. At certain points, standing in the middle of the ranch feels like standing in a separate country. The horizon stretches endlessly in every direction. The King Ranch is proof that in Texas, even a farm can be larger than places where millions of people live. Most people are used to crossing an entire state in a few hours. Texas plays by different rules. Driving from El Paso in western Texas to Texarkana on the eastern border covers roughly 800 miles. Without major stops, the journey takes around 12 hours. To put that into perspective, that's comparable to driving across several European countries. You could leave Paris and reach Berlin in a similar amount of time. Yet throughout the entire trip, you never leave Texas. What's even more remarkable is how dramatically the landscape changes. The desert mountains of the west slowly give way to rolling plains. The plains transition into hills. The hills become forests. By the time you reach East Texas, the environment feels completely different from where you started. The journey feels less like crossing a state and more like traveling through multiple countries. Texas doesn't just look big on a map. You feel its size every mile of the way. Ask someone to describe Texas weather, and they'll probably say one thing: hot. But the reality is far more complicated. Texas contains 10 different climate zones. Few places in North America can match this level of diversity. In the far west, true desert conditions dominate the landscape. In the east, dense forests receive heavy rainfall and high humidity. Along the Gulf Coast, tropical influences shape the weather. Meanwhile, higher elevations in the mountains experience cooler conditions rarely associated with Texas. Rainfall varies dramatically across the state. Some areas receive less than 8 inches of rain per year. Others receive more than 50. This incredible variety creates habitats for thousands of species of plants and animals. It's one of the reasons Texas contains more biodiversity than most people realize. Texas isn't defined by a single climate. It's a collection of climates living side by side. Imagine standing on the highest point in Texas. The wind rushes across the summit of Guadalupe Peak as rugged mountains stretch toward the horizon. The landscape feels ancient, harsh, untamed. Nothing about this place suggests an ocean, yet that's exactly what it once was. Around 265 million years ago, this entire region was covered by a warm tropical sea. Coral reefs flourished beneath crystal-clear waters. Marine creatures thrived in an environment that looked more like the Caribbean than the Texas desert. Over millions of years, layers of shells, coral, and marine organisms accumulated on the sea floor. Then, geology took over. Powerful tectonic forces slowly pushed these ancient reefs upward. The ocean disappeared. The land rose. Erosion sculpted the mountains we see today. Guadalupe Peak is actually part of one of the best preserved fossil reef systems on Earth. Even now, visitors can find marine fossils embedded in the rocks. Think about that for a moment. Every step on this mountain is a step across an ancient ocean floor. Texas didn't simply create a mountain. Nature transformed an entire sea into one. When most people think about wildlife spectacles, they imagine the Great Migration in Africa or massive whale gatherings in the oceans. Very few would think of bats. But every summer evening near San Antonio, Texas hosts one of the most extraordinary wildlife events on Earth. Hidden beneath the ground lies Bracken Cave. At first glance, it doesn't seem particularly special. Yet inside this cave lives the largest known bat colony in the world. Between 15 and 20 million Mexican free-tailed bats crowd together inside a single underground chamber. As the sun begins to set, something incredible happens. The bats emerge in a giant spiral that can continue for hours. The swirling column stretches across the sky like a living tornado. The cloud is so enormous that it can sometimes be detected on weather radar. Scientists estimate these bats consume hundreds of tons of insects every night. Without them, agricultural pests would multiply dramatically across the region. What appears to be a dark cloud above Texas is actually one of nature's greatest pest control systems. 20 million bats, one cave, one of the largest animal gatherings anywhere on Earth. Most people only know Texas for what exists above ground. But beneath the surface lies an entirely different world. Texas contains more than 4,000 documented caves. Many formed over millions of years as slightly acidic groundwater slowly dissolved limestone rock. Drop by drop, year after year, century after century. The result is a hidden underground landscape filled with tunnels, chambers, and geological formations. Some caves contain massive rooms large enough to fit skyscrapers. Others feature delicate stalactites and stalagmites that have taken tens of thousands of years to grow. Natural Bridge Caverns near San Antonio is one of the most spectacular examples. Visitors descend deep underground into enormous chambers illuminated by towering rock formations. These underground worlds remain largely invisible from the surface. You could drive across Texas your entire life and never realize what lies beneath your wheels. Texas isn't just a land of vast open spaces. It's also a land of hidden worlds buried underground. Everyone has heard of the Grand Canyon. Almost nobody talks about Palo Duro Canyon. And that's surprising, because Palo Duro Canyon is the second largest canyon system in the United States. Located in the Texas Panhandle, the canyon stretches for more than 120 miles. Its colorful rock walls reveal millions of years of geological history. Layers of red, orange, and white sediment tell the story of ancient rivers, shifting climates, and changing landscapes. The canyon was carved over immense periods of time by flowing water. From above, it appears like a giant crack slicing through the flat plains of northern Texas. That's what makes it so shocking. The surrounding landscape is remarkably flat. Then suddenly, the earth opens up. Visitors often describe their first glimpse as surreal. One moment you're driving across open prairie, the next you're staring into a canyon large enough to swallow entire cities. Texas somehow managed to hide one of America's greatest natural wonders in plain sight. Deep in the deserts of West Texas, strange lights have been appearing for more than a century. No one knows exactly why. Near the small town of Marfa, glowing orbs are regularly seen floating above the landscape after dark. Witnesses describe lights that move unexpectedly. Some split apart, some merge together, others suddenly vanish. Reports date back to the late 1800s, long before highways, modern vehicles, or powerful artificial lights existed in the region. Scientists have proposed numerous explanations: atmospheric reflections, temperature inversions, mirages, distant vehicle headlights. Yet none of these theories fully explain every reported sighting. The mystery has become part of local culture. Thousands of visitors travel to Marfa hoping to witness the phenomenon for themselves. Some leave convinced they've seen something extraordinary. Others remain skeptical. But one fact remains unchanged. For over 100 years, the lights continue to appear, and the Texas desert continues to keep it secret. Finding an untouched coastline in the modern world is becoming increasingly rare. But Texas still has one. Padre Island stretches along the Gulf Coast for more than 70 miles. What makes it remarkable isn't its size. It's the fact that much of it remains completely undeveloped. No massive resorts, no crowded beachfront cities, no endless rows of hotels, just sand, dunes, ocean, and wildlife. Padre Island National Seashore protects one of the longest remaining undeveloped barrier islands on Earth. The island serves as an important refuge for migratory birds traveling across North America. It also provides nesting grounds for the endangered Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, one of the rarest sea turtle species in the world. The landscape is constantly changing. Wind reshapes the dunes, storms alter the coastline. Ocean currents move enormous quantities of sand. Standing on Padre Island feels like stepping back in time. A glimpse of what much of the Gulf Coast looked like before modern development transformed it forever. It's wild, remote, and increasingly rare in today's world. Most states joined the United States and never looked back. Texas has a different story. For nearly a decade, Texas existed as an independent nation known as the Republic of Texas. From 1836 to 1845, Texas had its own government, its own president, its own military, and even diplomatic relationships with foreign countries. It wasn't simply a territory waiting to become a state. It was a sovereign nation. The Republic of Texas emerged after gaining independence from Mexico following the famous Battle of San Jacinto. For 9 years, leaders attempted to build a functioning country across a vast and often unforgiving landscape. The challenges were enormous. The population was small. The territory was massive. Infrastructure was limited. Defending such a large area proved difficult and expensive. Eventually, Texas agreed to join the United States in 1845. But the legacy of independence never disappeared. Even today, many Texans view their state differently than almost anywhere else in America. That independent spirit is woven into the culture, the history, and even the identity of the state. Texas became part of a nation. But it never completely stopped thinking like one. When people think about natural disasters in America, they often remember Hurricane Katrina or major earthquakes. But the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history occurred in Texas. On September 8, 1900, a powerful hurricane struck the city of Galveston. At the time, Galveston was one of the wealthiest and most important cities in the region. Few residents realized the danger approaching from the Gulf of Mexico. Then, the storm arrived. A massive storm surge swept across the low-lying island. Buildings collapsed. Entire neighborhoods vanished beneath the water. By the time the hurricane passed, an estimated 6,000 to 12,000 people had lost their lives. The destruction was almost unimaginable. Yet what happened afterward was equally remarkable. Instead of abandoning the city, residents chose to rebuild. Engineers constructed a giant seawall to protect the coastline. Even more astonishing, entire sections of the city were physically raised several feet above their original level. Some buildings were lifted while people still lived inside them. Galveston transformed itself to survive. The disaster remains a powerful reminder that geography can create prosperity, but it can also create vulnerability. Texas is divided into 254 counties. That may not sound particularly impressive at first, until you realize it's more than any other state in America. The reason dates back to a time when transportation was much slower. In the 19th century, many Texans traveled on horseback. State leaders wanted residents to be able to reach their county government within a reasonable amount of time. As a result, new counties were continually created across the growing frontier. Some of these counties are enormous. Brewster County, located in West Texas, covers more than 6,000 square miles. That's larger than several U.S. states, yet only a small number of people live there. Others are tiny and sparsely populated. One county, Loving County, has a population that sometimes hovers around just 100 residents. Despite that, it still maintains its own government, courthouse, and local administration. Texas took local government and stretched it across one of the largest territories in America. The result is a map filled with hundreds of counties, each representing a small piece of the state's enormous geography. This fact surprises almost everyone. Texas contains hundreds of lakes, yet only one of them is considered a natural lake. Its name is Caddo Lake. Located near the border with Louisiana, Caddo Lake looks completely different from the landscapes most people associate with Texas. Towering bald cypress trees rise from the water. Spanish moss hangs from their branches. The scenery feels more like a mysterious southern swamp than the open plains of Texas. Unlike most lakes in the state, Caddo Lake was not created by a dam. It formed naturally centuries ago when a massive log jam blocked part of the Red River system. The backed-up water eventually created the lake. Today, the ecosystem supports hundreds of species of plants and animals, including fish, birds, turtles, and even alligators. Meanwhile, nearly every other major lake in Texas exists because humans built dams across rivers. In a state famous for engineering and development, Caddo Lake remains a rare glimpse into what nature created on its own. Some rivers disappear, others leave behind a legacy. Deep beneath parts of Texas lies the hidden path of an ancient river known as the Tees River. Millions of years ago, this enormous waterway flowed across parts of North America, carrying vast quantities of water and sediment. Then, everything changed. Ice ages altered the landscape. Glaciers reshaped drainage systems. The river eventually vanished from the surface, but it never completely disappeared. Its buried channels remained underground. Over time, these ancient pathways filled with water-bearing sand and gravel. Today, geologists can still trace portions of these hidden river systems beneath the ground. In some areas, they help feed aquifers and groundwater resources that communities depend on. Think about that for a moment. People living in Texas today may be drinking water influenced by a river that vanished millions of years before humans even existed. It's one of the strangest examples of how the distant geological past continues to shape everyday life. The river died. Its influence never did. Beneath the seemingly endless plains of northern Texas lies one of the most important water sources in North America. Most people driving across the Texas Panhandle have no idea it exists. Hidden underground is the Ogallala Aquifer. This enormous reservoir stretches across 8 U.S. states and contains water that accumulated thousands of years ago, long before modern civilization existed. For decades, farmers have relied on this water to transform dry grasslands into highly productive farmland. Without it, much of the region would look dramatically different. Fields of corn, wheat, and cotton cover landscapes that naturally receive relatively little rainfall. But there is a problem. The aquifer is being depleted faster than nature can replace it. In some areas, water levels have fallen by more than 100 feet. Scientists warn that portions of the aquifer could become significantly depleted within the coming decades if current trends continue. It's a strange reality. One of America's most productive agricultural regions depends on water that has been stored underground since the end of the last ice age. The future of millions of acres of farmland may depend on how carefully that ancient resource is managed. There are still places in America where nature feels completely untouched. Big Bend National Park is one of them. Located in the remote southwest corner of Texas, Big Bend covers more than 800,000 acres of rugged mountains, deserts, and river canyons. Getting there is not easy. Major cities are hundreds of miles away. Cell phone service is limited. In many areas, you can travel for hours without seeing another person. And that's exactly what makes the park so special. The landscape feels ancient. Towering mountains rise above vast desert valleys. The Rio Grande carves dramatic canyons through the earth. At night, the skies become some of the darkest in North America. Millions of stars appear overhead with incredible clarity. Visitors often describe Big Bend as a place that reminds them how small humans really are. In a world filled with highways, cities, and constant noise, Big Bend remains one of the few places where true wilderness still survives. Most Americans receive electricity through systems connected to massive regional power networks. Texas is different. The state operates its own independent electrical grid. Known as ERCOT, this system serves the vast majority of Texas while remaining largely separate from the two major power grids that serve the rest of the continental United States. For decades, this independence was viewed as a symbol of Texas' self-reliance. The state maintained greater control over its own energy infrastructure and regulations. But independence comes with risks. In February 2021, a historic winter storm brought freezing temperatures across Texas. Power plants struggled, demand surged, large portions of the grid failed. Millions of residents suddenly found themselves without electricity during dangerously cold conditions. The event became one of the most significant infrastructure crises in modern Texas history. Today, the Texas power grid remains one of the most unique energy systems in the world. It represents both the advantages and challenges of standing apart from everyone else. Ask someone to picture Texas, and they'll probably imagine deserts, cowboys, and wide-open plains. Then take them to East Texas. The reaction is usually surprise. Dense forests cover much of the region. Towering pine trees stretch toward the sky. Humidity fills the air. Swamps, rivers, and wetlands dominate the landscape. Some visitors feel as though they've somehow crossed into Louisiana without realizing it. This region is known as the Piney Woods. It forms part of a larger forest ecosystem that extends across the American South. Rainfall is abundant. Wildlife is diverse. The scenery bears little resemblance to the dry landscapes often associated with Texas. The contrast is so dramatic that many first-time visitors struggle to believe they're still in the same state. It's one of the clearest examples of Texas's incredible geographic diversity. Texas isn't one landscape. It's many different worlds connected by a single border. For generations, Texas was known primarily for oil. Black gold helped shape the state's economy and identity. But today, another energy source dominates large portions of the landscape. Wind. Across West Texas and the Panhandle, enormous wind farms stretch toward the horizon. Thousands of turbines rotate continuously beneath vast open skies. The geography of the region makes it ideal. Flat terrain allows powerful winds to move freely across the landscape with few obstacles. As a result, Texas produces more wind energy than any other U.S. state. In fact, if Texas were a country, its wind energy production would rank among the world's largest producers. Driving through these regions can feel surreal. Tower after tower disappears into the distance. The scale seems endless. It's one of the most fascinating ironies in modern geography. The state that became famous for oil is now also a global leader in renewable energy. Texas isn't abandoning its past, it's adding a new chapter to it. From ancient oceans turned into mountains, to mysterious lights in the desert, from the world's largest bat colony, to an independent power grid. Texas is far more than a state. It's a collection of landscapes, climates, histories, and natural wonders unlike anywhere else on Earth. What makes Texas truly fascinating isn't just its size, it's the incredible diversity hidden within that size. Deserts exist alongside forests, ancient reefs become mountains, remote wilderness survives in the shadow of massive cities, and beneath it all lies a geological story hundreds of millions of years in the making. So, which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed exploring Texas with us, don't forget to subscribe to Planet Earth Explorer and turn on notifications. Next time, we'll journey to another incredible destination and uncover the geography, history, and secrets that make it unique. Until then, keep exploring.